Hi Anti-Society, welcome back to the Antisocial Planet, and today we're watching episodes 206 and 207 of Bleach. So last episode we had a bit of a grand reveal moment in that we had Aizen finally deciding to re-enter the conflict that was going on, and we also found out that Soul Society has been doing a bunch of stuff in the background. We kind of knew that some stuff was going on with Soul Society when some of the captains showed up in Las Noches, and we heard that Urahara was helping out with them and stuff, so we knew that they had some sort of plan in the works, but it's definitely more extensive than I was expecting, because we got like a whole town that's just been like teleported into Soul Society. Not really sure how that works entirely, given that like Ichigo had to be like, you have to be like a soul to go to the Soul Society, but I guess also because Urahara has those like pillars, so they function differently. I'm sure there's like some reasoning behind that, but I'm just gonna accept it because it's setting up for there to be a really cool fight between Soul Society and Aizen and his Arrancar. So I'm definitely really hyped to see some of those interactions, especially since we have Tosen and his friend, who I'm assuming are gonna have some kind of conflict. We got Matsumoto, who is going to have to encounter Gin in some capacity, which I'm excited for. We have Toshiro, who definitely wants to pick a fight with Aizen. So there's a lot of like grudge matches and also just like trying to accept that friends are like not friends anymore kind of energy. So lots of things that I think are really interesting with that. I also want to see Yamamoto and Aizen go head to head in some way. I think that they're probably the most powerful members, and I'd like to see some of that and kind of actually get to see Yamamoto fight, because we haven't at this point. And of course, we ended off the episode with Ulquiorra finally making his way back to Las Noches. He's been put in charge of keeping everything under control while Aizen is gone with the other top 3 Espada. So it looks like Ichigo is going to pick a fight with him. I will definitely be interested to see how that works out. We know that Ichigo is able to use his hollow side longer and to a bit of a better effect now that he's been raised from the dead. So maybe he can sort of fight Ulquiorra. I don't feel great about it. I'm gonna be honest. I want to believe in Ichigo, but unless something like really cool happens, like he gets some kind of power up, other than just like having more time with his hollow form, I don't see it happening. Especially since Ulquiorra like literally killed him and didn't even like break a sweat, didn't like barely got a scratch. He got a little bit in his shoulder at the end. Didn't use his release form, which I really want to see Ulquiorra's release form. I think it'll look really cool considering he is my favorite design out of the Espada, so we'll see. I liked Grimjo's, so it'll be interesting to kind of see how Ulquiorra's measures up to that. So let's just get into episode 206. In 3, 2, 1, go. Should I make this full screen? I'm actually more excited about this than I thought I would be. It's always exciting to start a new arc, but I feel like this one really feels like a new arc. I know it's still like the Arrancar arc, but it does feel like we're finally getting into like the main conflict, so it's very exciting for me. I hope the pacing is a little bit better. Like, I know with the previous fights, the pacing was a little bit weird because it was catching up with the manga, so which has been an issue for like a while with the show, of like them kind of drawing things out because they can't like adapt like multiple chapters of the manga because then they'll catch up way too fast. But I don't know, I have a feeling where like 2 episodes is kind of like the best length for a fight. I don't know if you guys agree with me on that one. Sometimes three, maybe, if it's like a really important fight that has a lot of like character growth and stuff in it. But I think the majority of the time, 2 episodes is kind of the best thing. And I don't know, in the last little bit, they like, it was like 2 episodes, but then they kind of like tagged on like half an episode with the fight. It was weird. The truth of the mask, is this something about holification? Because the only masks I really know, literal masks, is like the hollows, the hollow masks. But it may also be uh just a mask in terms of like hiding behind a certain facade or like hiding parts of yourself. Shinji? Aizen? Wait, wait, wait. Wait. Hold up. Was Shinji a captain? I don't know. I guess I just thought of Shinji as like being really young because of the way he acts and the way he's treated within like Visored. And he was like masquerading as a high school student. But I'm assuming this means that he's probably older than Aizen if he made it to captain while Aizen was like just a lieutenant. Ooh, now I definitely want Visor to get involved because if Visor gets involved, I want these two to like see each other again. Ooh, Hiyori? I mean, okay, I knew that like Visor were like Soul Reapers that became part Hollow, and that's like, so they would have been part of the Soul Society, probably. But like, I didn't expect them to be so highly ranked. I like that they were always chaotic together. Like Shinji and Hiyori were just always a mess. Shinji. See, that's why I thought of him as being fairly young by like Soul Reaper standards. Because he acts like that. Shinsui. Is this back when Urahara was still a captain? That's my next question. Isn't Rose part of Visor too? Interesting. There's so I'm like, it's just making me more and more excited to see like all three groups come together, like Eisen, um, Visored, and then Soul Society. Isn't that Lisa? I'm like so my brain is trying to keep up with like all of the worlds colliding in the past though. There's a Squad Zero then. Is that related to the king? Ooh, Yoroichi. This is an interesting flashback episode to just see like how all of their lives used to intertwine in like a very different context than it does now. Obviously setting it up before we like see everyone kind of come together to fight each other. Is that Urahara? Yep. It's weird to see him without his hat. Ooh. I like that their friendship goes so far back. I don't know. I think she probably knows better than most people. And she probably wants someone she can trust, right? Like, even beyond, like, power, she wants someone that she can rely on. And considering how far back the, like, deceptions and betrayal seem to go in the Soul Societies, you know, captains and lieutenants and what have you, that's probably a good thing to have someone you actually fully trust. Is that his laboratory? I feel like Urahara, like, takes a while to get involved into something, but it's usually because he's, like, doing his own thing in his head. I feel like he lives very much, like, in his own brain, and then it makes it feel like ideas kind of come full form out of it, even though he's been, like, kind of working on it in the background for a little while. Because I always feel like he's got something, some kind of, not only like plan A, but I feel like he has like up to plan Z. Like, I feel like Urahara has a lot more going on than he kind of seems externally. Doing some investigating. Are we playing Beyblades? Or just tops, I guess, but everyone looks a little bit angry at him. Okay, but like he definitely knows she's there, even before that. I feel like he knows he's being followed around. Is this a way to kind of like prove to Soifang what Urahara can do? I'm assuming it didn't work considering they're still friends. Still coming up with plans together. He'll be there, don't worry about it. Who are we going to see? Because he said some people he's grown attached to were found. Trailing him again? Got a feeling he's gonna prove himself a little bit. I hope we get to see some more of his fighting style. Like either, I mean, I guess probably not here, but like in the exam or like if he joins the fight with Soul Society. Well, that's a little terrifying. Like taking down that many and then just like casually walking out, like smiling. Officially a captain and a bit of a chaotic mess. Aizen has ideas about it though. Okay, I'm gonna skip the ending again. So I definitely wasn't expecting there to be a flashback style episode to start this part of the arc, especially considering like the cliffhanger that we ended the last part with. But I'm not mad at it because I feel like it's important to kind of set up the history of these characters' relationships with each other before we have them all come together. Like, obviously, that is what is ramping up to happen. Like, Soul Society meeting Aizen and his team again, which, like, we sort of know some of the history. I touched on that in the last reaction where I was like, there's like grudge matches and like wrecked friendships and betrayals and all this kind of stuff that's already like wrapped up with the few people from the Soul Society that left with Aizen. And then to kind of establish not only some of the backstory with like Urahara and Yoroichi, which are of course like estranged from Soul Society, and kind of where they're coming from when it comes to helping out Soul Society and joining into this conflict, but we're also getting visored. I just noticed my headphones are in the background. Hold up. Not that it super matters, but just ignore my brief lack of focus. So I knew that visored was like from Soul Society and they were Soul Reapers that like became hollowified, obviously, because most Soul Reapers, like, their origin is Soul Society, but I didn't expect, like, captains and lieutenants as, like, how far they ranked. Like, that's very interesting to me because, one, it really shows the power. Like, Shinji was a captain, so, and I think Hiyori was a captain? It looked like she was in the lineup. I thought she was a lieutenant at first, but it looks like she was part of the like two lines of the captains when Urahara was showing up. So that I think that's where she was. Because I don't think she had, I'm trying to think if she had the like symbol on her arm. I can't remember. But having people who did fit into the captain spot means a certain amount of power, a certain amount of skill, and a certain amount of authority. So it definitely makes me interested in how that turned into them, you know, being hollowified. You know, like, how did they become visored? How did they shift into that space of having part hollow abilities? Obviously, with Ichigo, it was a bit of a fluke thing that happened. Like, it's a bit of a interesting case with him of why exactly he has that hollow attached to him. It was part of like him, you know, training and trying to get more powerful. I don't know if that is also connected to like Shinji and Hiyori and the other characters that then had hollow abilities later on, or if something else was happening, because we obviously know that Aizen was experimenting with turning Soul Reapers into hollows and hollows into Soul Reapers. So I don't know if he is also somewhat involved with how they turned out the way that they did. He obviously had a certain amount of contact with them, being a lieutenant, and then, I mean, being lieutenant of Shinji, so like I'm assuming that he might have had some impact on why Shinji has hollow abilities now. So it just kind of depends, I think, on like how far back those experiments go and what that backstory is going to be. So I'm interested to kind of continue on that and really figure out where everyone stands, and very excited to see all kind of four of these fronts come together, because we have Aizen, and then we have Soul Society, the, I don't know, the people who abandoned Soul Society with like Urahara and Yoroichi and what have you. And then we have Visored, which I guess are also people who abandoned Soul Society, but for different reasons. Look, it's all very complicated, but we've kind of got that, I guess 5 friends, if we're counting Ichigo and his friends as like a separate group that is involved in the conflict. I'm not going to get into the nuance of that, so let's get into episode 207. In 3, 2, 1, go. I don't know why I like faltered in being able to use my fingers to count down. Look, already been a full day of work. Don't judge me for my brain not fully working. It feels weird. The last little bit, I haven't been watching the little previews at the end because I've been watching the end, like the ender. So I never know what I'm getting into. I'm assuming we're staying in flashback. As much as I want to just get to the fights that are going to be happening. Was the one guy that's also in Visored one of the captains? The guy with the white hair? It's been so long since I've seen Visored, and we didn't spend a lot of time with them except like Shinji and Hiyori that it's hard for me to remember everyone. See, Hiyori has the little sigil thing, so I'm assuming that makes her a lieutenant, not a captain. I thought she was a lieutenant from the way they were talking, but I doubted myself. I almost didn't recognize Lisa because Shinsui seems to have a type when it comes to his lieutenants. So isn't the guy next to Kitake also one of the people that's in Visored? So many though that it makes me wonder what exactly happens to make them all hollows or partly hollow. I think it's probably something to do with Aizen. It's always part of Aizen's plan, isn't it? That means there's a pretty big like shift in power if that many people who are like captains and lieutenants were became visored. And then of course Urahara and Yoroichi both left. This was just them leaving have something to do with a bunch of them getting turned partly hollow. Is there a big drama? Yeah, he looks like the type, doesn't he? I could sort of get Sui Feng's hesitation. Ooh, is Hiyori gonna be his first lieutenant? Now, I definitely want to see Visored and Urahara interact. Oh, that's usually Hiyori's tactic, to just say what everyone else is thinking bluntly. I have a similar thing. You need to choose what to spend your energy on. You can't be upset about everything. It's like you can't be passionate about everything in general. Unnecessary. Ooh, isn't it his laboratory, I guess? He's moving his lab. Has to find a new tactic. Ooh, deserved though. Ooh, I feel like Urahara will win her over, but she won't, like, she'll do it begrudgingly. He's just trying to be nice. I use filler words too, like all the time too. So I get him, he's like, eto. How anticlimactic. I also feel like all the times that Hiyori has actually like hit him, he's like allowed it. Because I also feel like Urahara, if he really wanted to, could have dodged all of these attacks. But he like let her have it so it would like she could get her anger out some way. It's like a new trigger for her. People saying eto. I have another question. Is there an origin story for Urahara's hat? Like when he gets it, why he keeps it? Because it's very like it's a big part of his character design. Like it's very symbolic of him. Relaxation is important. You need to take a moment to yourself every once in a while. I would like to see more of Urahara fighting though. I don't think we've seen his Sanpakuto like Urahara's because it's usually in the like cane thing, right? But I haven't seen it. in the flashback that I can recall. Like, he doesn't clearly wear one. Oof, both feet right to the face. See, I still feel like he's intentionally not dodging. See? See? I knew he was just playing around. We've seen how well he could move. I mean, obviously he's probably stronger in like the present moment than he is back then because, he's trained and stuff, but this is an interesting interaction. I was wondering if part of Hiyori's uh, anger wasn't so much at Urahara himself, but at like the abandonment of the captain previously leaving, like choosing something else over her and the squad. Interesting piece of advice, though. You can't lead if there's no one you're leading. Like, there needs to be a balance between the two. Probably the whole time. Is that part of the reason why Shinji seems to know more about what's going on with Aizen and Soul Society than might seem logical? Because he was in the Soul Society, he knew Aizen, um, was closely linked to him and Urahara and all that kind of stuff. Because I've been wondering that since like earlier on, because he seemed to know a lot more about what was going on than anybody else. Why can't, yeah, I'm like, why can't he renovate it? It's his room. She's gonna hit him. Yep. What's the maggot's nest? Will I ever find out? Probably in the next episode, I guess. I liked that with that episode, we got to have a focus on Hiyori because I feel like we've never spent a lot of time with Visored independently, with maybe the exception of Shinji, who we got like a little bit on his own before Visored was like fully introduced to the show. So I liked being able to get some background on Hiyori and like why she acts a certain way that she does. I definitely feel like there's some like abandonment issues involved with that. I'm not sure if there's like a big long backstory to that or if it's just because like her captain decided to leave. And you know, if you have someone who's like a parent figure to you or like even just feels like family, like we've seen with a lot of these squads, that people have these really tight connections with people, that that person deciding to go on and do something else can feel like a betrayal, especially since from the way that they talked about it, it happened really quickly. So it didn't give her a chance to kind of adjust to the idea of her captain leaving, and then to have someone like Urahara come in who's like kind of lazy on the outside and laid back. He doesn't seem outwardly like he has a lot going on, even though, like I was talking about, there's a lot more internally that he doesn't make obvious on the outside. So having someone like that fall into that position, like, it's not going to work for Hiyori. Like, she's just going to keep thinking, this isn't my captain. Like, this isn't the person that I got used to being around. And because of that, she's lashing out in a more aggressive way, because that's like the only way she could think of putting her emotions out. And I definitely do feel like Urahara is like allowing her to be kind of violent towards him. I say kind of, to be violent towards him, because he knows that that's a way for her to like get out that emotion. And we saw when they were fighting one-on-one, you know, when they were just fighting without weapons, that Urahara like could have easily moved out of the way and decided not to. Like, he did it just enough to show her that he could, and then moved back. So it's definitely a way of him like trying to build a relationship of respect and like trying to get to know her and like have her learn more about him, but also not trying to fit her expectation. And I think that's a really important way of taking a leadership role, is that Urahara wants her to respect him in some ways and to look up to him and to understand him and to have a working relationship between the two of them. But he's not willing to just be the captain that Hiyori thinks he should be, or that Soifang thinks that he should be, or that anyone thinks he should be. He's going to be his own captain, but still has to have that respect and that leadership, which goes into the conversation he had with Shinji. Which I actually really like the interaction between Shinji and Urahara, because they're both kind of goofy comic relief characters. I think of them as being kind of young souls, if not necessarily young, like age-wise, like they have a very kind of youthful feel to them. And to have those two having like a serious conversation about what it means to actually lead people is like an interesting turn. It's kind of like whenever Ishin has like those golden moments of parental advice where like you don't expect Ishin to fit into that, and yet he does it wonderfully, and it's a great contrast to add complexity to their characters. So I'll be interested to see what this like nest thing is that they are going to be going to with Urahara and Hiyori. I think it'll definitely be a more of a bonding moment where they're actually going to be able to work together in some way so that they can like deal with whatever issue or whatever is happening. I don't really know yet, but I feel like there's going to be a moment where they end up working together, and that'll be kind of the moment where their personalities click a little bit, because regardless of them having like very different personalities, ultimately they're both soul reapers, and like they both try to protect people and to hold up on their morals and to be protectors and fighters, you know. If nothing else, they both enjoy fighting to a certain extent. And I think the big mystery that I'm looking forward to is Aizen. I want to know how he became captain. I want to know how it's going to turn out with his interactions with Vizard. I'm pretty sure that the reason there's at least some of them have hollow abilities and are mixed with hollows in some way is directly involved with Aizen, because I think that's why they seem so aware of like who Aizen is and like his true character when Soul Society just found out about it. So I definitely want to get kind of the origin story of Vizard that will hopefully come out of this. If you enjoyed this video, you can click this playlist to the previous part of the arc. You can subscribe. I post new Bleach videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!